think I would have taken things more seriously if we weren't doing mushrooms that night. There was me, my brother, and his wife, both of them taking a well-deserved night off from their kids.
Jess, you mind getting me another beer?
My brother, Dan, yells from my living room. Jesus, that's what, 4 now? Mushrooms aren't a joint, man. When these kick in, you're going to be flying, I reply. While this was my brother and his wife's first time with entertainment-based fungus, it's a road I've traveled plenty of times. And to be honest, give me a nice strain of weed any day. Half the time, all I get from mushrooms are a headache and some blurred vision. But they wanted to swing for the fences on one of their few nights of freedom, and I was happy to oblige. You get a wine cooler, I say, handing Dan the barely alcoholic drink. Until you see how these hit you, anyway.
Thank you, Jess. If I'd have said it, he'd go grab 2,
Laura says. And then we waited, talked, and eventually I noticed the large pupils and 1,000-yard stares common to mushrooms. On my end, I was feeling the 6-pack I drank harder than the fungus. Not that I was surprised. Dan and Laura decide they want to put on some old cartoons, and I oblige. They're hip deep in a trip, and who am I to crap on their parade? I watched the cup move for a few minutes, slowly sliding from one end of my dining room table to the other, confident nothing stranger was going on than me actually catching a nice buzz from psychedelics. As I rise to get myself my 7th beer, something catches my attention. My tablecloth, bunched around the glass. I close my eyes and reach toward the glass. Trick I learned in high school. Psychedelics affect a lot of things, but touch seldom gets screwed with too badly. I feel the glass, move my hand down toward the tablecloth, hoping to feel flat linen. What I feel is something slowly licking my hand. I scream, opening my eyes and backing up. I see nothing but the glass sitting at its original spot on the far end of the table, tablecloth flat and undisturbed.
Are you okay in there?
Laura asks. I can barely hear her over my panting.
Yeah, just, long story,
is the only way I can think of to reply.
I'm Jess. Mushrooms don't affect me,
Dan says, Laura and himself erupting into gales of laughter. I mumble a curse under my breath and go to open my off-white fridge. My blood goes cold. My right hand, where I felt the lick, is covered in a slimy black-gray film. I calm myself down, telling myself it's just the drugs as I walk to the sink. As the water hits the film, it taints it to a deep, pitch black. I layer it with soap, scrub with a dish scouring pad, but no matter how much I clean, the film remains. My sink, however, is stained black.
Jess?
Jesus! I scream.
Seriously, are you okay?
Laura asks.
Fine. Just a bad trip, I think.
Nothing I haven't been through before. My tone must be more confident than I feel as she doesn't press things. I get my beer, ignoring whatever is or isn't on my hand, leaving dark streaks on anything I touch. Laura and Dan spend the rest of the night making unfunny jokes and deep thoughts that are barely coherent. I spend it counting the ways what is happening to me isn't a mushroom trip. But eventually, I fall asleep. When I wake up, Dan and Laura are already gone. A note thanking me on my living room table. I feel fine. No hangover, none of that vague depression that comes with doing too many mushrooms. I'm ready to meet the day. I'm not ready to meet the filthy catastrophe my kitchen and living room have turned into. The black streaks have seemed to rot and degrade wherever they touch. My couch is tattered and threadbare. The fridge can barely close, my walls bulging and pockmarked. There's also my hand. It's no longer covered in that film, but it's a bright red, inflamed horror show. Lesions and ulcers peppered over its surface. I like drugs. Soft drugs, to be specific, but I'm no new age hippie chick. Never been one for ghosts or Wicca or any of that crap. But I'm not an idiot either. I know when things aren't right. And with that in mind, I bolt to my door and promptly smack my face from it at full speed. The door won't budge. Neither does the glass sliding door to my backyard, even with some heavy prompting from a meat tenderizer. I stand in my kitchen, holding the meat mallet like an idiot, as if it would protect me against whatever it is that has decided to make an appearance in my life. The early morning sun filters in the world just beyond my walls. A beautiful day is starting. Inside them, some kind of hell is brewing.
12 steps down, deep below the ground.
A thin, echoing voice sings, slowly, as if trying to explain an important concept. I scramble through the house looking for my phone. As I walk up to the second floor, the lights refuse to turn on, and somehow, despite the bright morning sun, the long hallway is visually impenetrable. I walk back downstairs. I get a sense of danger, of something waiting upstairs in that inky blackness. I sit at my kitchen table, silent, every noise causing my heart to beat like a jackhammer. I almost fall out of my chair when I hear my ringtone. Myself suddenly sitting on my counter, feet from my head. I hesitate to answer it, even when I see Dan's number, but eventually hope or curiosity causes me to pick up.
Mom is on the mend. Dad wants it to end.
That same lilting child's voice comes from the speaker. Fuck off! I scream into the phone.
Did I do something to deserve that last night?
I hear Dan say, Sorry. Listen, I need you over here right now. I say, trying to think of something non-psychotic to tell him. I'm pretty sure Eric has been circling my block. I don't like the lie, but I need someone here seeing this shit.
You might want to lock your door if that idiot is creeping around, Jess. Christ.
Dan says, walking in about an hour later. I don't say anything, figuring the diseased and decrepit state of my house should tell him what he needs to know. But he doesn't react. Not to the rusted appliances, nor the fetid reek that's beginning to seep up from the basement. I hold out my hand, raw and cracked, and he only looks at me confused.
You're freaking me out. Did he come by or say something?
Dan says. Walking over, he looks at my neck, tilts my head a bit, sees no sign of struggle. No, not yet anyway, but I'm not feeling safe here right now. Any chance I could stay with you guys? I know it's not a permanent fix, and for all I know, this force or entity could just refuse to let me leave. But it's the only option I have.
You mind if I take a load off for a few before we get going? I haven't got a chance to finish my coffee yet.
He shakes a Starbucks cup at me and makes his way to my living room, sitting down with a thump on the moldering couch. I see a rusted spring tear a long, deep scratch in his leg. Blood begins to pool and drip, but Dan sits there none the wiser, pants stained from the damp furniture, years worth of dust on his windbreaker. I want to say something, but I don't, knowing how crazy I would sound. We leave the house no problem a half hour later, Dan's gash staining the cloth seats of his truck. I scratch my hand, the itching is getting unbearable. Dan looks to me, and in an instant I know what he thinks. He's assuming I started dipping into the hard stuff.
Mind if I turn the radio?
He says, knowing I caught his look. He turns the dial of the ancient stereo. A static screeching plays for a few seconds before...
And all the bricks he stacked, in case I would come back. And all
That
the
voice
bricks
again.
he stacked,
It doesn't stop repeating endlessly on the 20-minute drive. I keep expecting Dan to react, to question it, or to yell, "Gotcha!" and pull out a burned CD. But the refrain doesn't stop until the truck is shut down and we're sitting in Dan's driveway. As the hours went by at Dan's place, I started to believe that maybe I was just experiencing some kind of extended bad trip before. No rotten walls, no corpse stench, nothing. Until I sat there staring at the ceiling, hearing Dan and Laura talk in hushed tones about how to help me as I tried to sleep.
They didn't do a thing, forever shall I sing.
Small, thin, just barely perceptible. In that guest room, I felt 1,000 miles away from anyone. Hearing this thing's nonsense song, watching the dimensions of the room warp, shadows twist into face-like shapes, all while knowing I'm the sole person that can experience this hell. In the weeks that followed, I tried going back to my place, but every time it was more decrepit, more foreboding. I began to feel like whatever was doing this to me wanted me at Dan's house. My nightly torment in the guest room, bad as it was a step from 24 hours a day with nothing but this new passenger to keep me company. As the weeks started to stack up, I start to notice something. It catches my attention when I call my boss in front of Dan, quitting without so much as a passing sorry. He doesn't say a word. Dan has always been worried about my bohemian lifestyle, but I straight up put a black mark on my resume in front of him and nothing. As weeks turn to months, this happens more and more. I break down telling Dan everything. He doesn't bat an eyelash. He doesn't even hear me. I scream in Laura's ear at 2 a.m. as she is dead asleep. Not so much as a disgruntled snore. But as time went on, this happened more and more, not just limited to my cries for help, but bit by bit, I was being made to disappear in the most blunt and brutal fashion. I looked at my high school yearbook yesterday. Where there should have been my picture was nothing more than a blank spot, conspicuous as a rotten tooth. Dan and Laura haven't reacted to anything I've said or done in a week at this point. Neither has anyone on the street or in town. If you find yourself in a similar situation, take this as a warning. Not that I'm confident anyone will ever be able to see it. If you know anything about this kind of stuff, this is my last cry for help. Find me. Help me. I want to be seen.